In the dead of night, while the rest of the world sleeps, a terrifying reality unfolds behind locked doors and soundproof walls. You wake up thinking everything is safe, normal, and predictable. But that is just a comforting illusion designed to keep your mind at ease. Right now, in facilities you will never see, people are performing tasks so deeply disturbing, so psychologically shattering, that the mere knowledge of their existence can ruin your peace of mind. We are not talking about common fears or urban legends. We are talking about real, sanctioned, highly specialized professions that operate in the absolute shadows of our society. These are jobs where normal human boundaries do not exist, where sanity is tested to its absolute breaking point, and where the people involved must lock away their humanity just to survive another shift. And yet, society depends on them. Without these hidden horrors, our modern world would literally collapse into chaos and decay. But that is only the beginning of the nightmare. Have you ever wondered what happens to the things that society refuses to acknowledge? Who cleans up the quiet tragedies, the invisible horrors, and the unspeakable aftermaths that never make the evening news? Let us take a terrifying step into the abyss and examine the strange, dark architecture of human labor. Let's start with the most unsettling occupation imaginable, the professional grief shadow. In certain high-security research and corporate environments, individuals are hired solely to absorb psychological trauma. Imagine walking into a room where a catastrophic failure has just occurred. People are broken, weeping, or staring blankly into space. Your job is not to comfort them. Your job is to stand quietly in the corner, absorbing the emotional residue, observing their cognitive collapse, and documenting the precise psychological decay of human despair for corporate analysis. You are forbidden from speaking. You are forbidden from showing empathy. You are simply a human sponge for suffering, paid to stand in the dark and watch minds fracture. But how does someone even apply for a job like that? The screening process itself is a psychological torture test, designed to weed out anyone who still possesses a normal threshold of empathy. Candidates are subjected to hours of horrific sensory deprivation and intense psychological interrogation, forced to prove they can remain completely detached while witnessing absolute despair. And then something even more disturbing happens. Once hired, these workers are subjected to mandatory memory erasure techniques or isolation protocols to ensure they never speak of what they witness. They become ghosts living among us, carrying the invisible weight of 1,000 silent breakdowns. Move further down into the underworld of specialized labor, and you encounter the deep-sea cable cadaver retriever. Most people think internet data travels magically through the air or peacefully across pristine ocean floors. The truth is far darker. Thousands of miles of fiber optic cables lie on the pitch-black, freezing bottom of the ocean. Over time, these massive cables become entangled with deep-sea debris, marine life, and, occasionally, human remains from shipwrecks, aviation disasters, or unsolved disappearances. When a critical data line is severed or malfunctions in the crushing pressure of the abyssal zone, robotic submarines cannot always untangle the mess. That is when specialized saturation divers are sent down into total, suffocating darkness. They descend thousands of feet underwater inside pressurized bells, living in cramped, freezing metal chambers for weeks at a time. Their mission? To cut through tangled cables while navigating rotting wreckage and human remains trapped in the silt. Imagine floating in absolute silence, hundreds of miles from shore, with your flashlight beam cutting through murky water, only to realize you are sharing your workspace with decaying bodies that have rested undisturbed for decades. How long could your mind hold onto reality in an environment like that? Most divers don't last more than a few contracts before their sleep is permanently haunted by the shadows of the deep ocean. And if you think the physical depths of the ocean are terrifying, consider the psychological depths of the urban isolation cleaner. When someone dies alone in a massive metropolis and goes undiscovered for months, the body undergoes a horrific natural transformation. By the time neighbors complain about the smell, the apartment has become a biohazard zone of unimaginable proportions. Regular cleaning crews cannot handle these sites. They require elite, certified biological remediation specialists who enter wearing full hazmat suits and respirators. But their job goes far beyond scrubbing floors and removing contaminated drywall. They must carefully sift through the decaying remnants of a forgotten life to salvage documents, money, or sentimental items for distant relatives. Imagine spending 8 hours a day knee-deep in the liquefied remains of a human being who lived just feet away from thousands of oblivious neighbors. You find photo albums covered in mold, diaries detailing final days of desperate loneliness, and personal belongings soaked in decay. Day after day, year after year, these workers breathe in the heavy, metallic stench of death through filtered masks, knowing that when their own time comes, they might end up as just another file on someone else's clipboard. What kind of person chooses to spend their life surrounded by the literal decay of humanity? They tell themselves they are bringing closure, but the truth is much darker. They are the caretakers of our deepest, most shameful societal failures. Let us push even further into the bizarre and unsettling. Have you ever heard of an industrial sleep deprivation auditor? In ultra-high-security government installations and deep space simulation labs, scientists need to know the exact breaking point of human cognition. They hire professionals to stay awake for days on end, wired to complex machinery, while auditors sit across from them, recording every micro-hallucination, every paranoid delusion, and every erratic twitch of the nervous system. But the auditors themselves must also stay awake. They work in tandem shifts, matching the grueling schedule of the subjects, watching through one-way mirrors as minds slowly unravel into violent psychosis. By the third or fourth day, the subjects begin seeing things that are not there, whispering secrets they never intended to share, and experiencing terrifying personality splits. The auditor must remain completely emotionless, taking precise notes while a human being completely loses their grip on reality. If the auditor shows empathy or falls asleep, the entire experiment is compromised, and they face severe psychological and professional penalties. Why would anyone subject their own nervous system to this waking nightmare? The pay is astronomical, but the psychological cost is irreversible. Former auditors report suffering from chronic insomnia, severe paranoia, and terrifying waking nightmares for the rest of their lives, frequently waking up convinced they are still sitting behind that one-way mirror, watching someone else lose their mind. Consider also the haunting profession of the corporate memory wiper. In the upper echelons of experimental technology and classified research, corporations develop prototypes and theoretical sciences so dangerous that the people who build them cannot be allowed to keep the memories in their heads. Once a project is completed or abruptly cancelled due to safety violations, specialized psychological consultants are brought in. Their task is to induce localized amnesia or cognitive dissonance, effectively burying the project details deep within the subconscious minds of the researchers through intensive hypnosis, targeted trauma induction, and pharmaceutical intervention. The researchers walk into work believing they are simply changing departments, but they walk out having lost entire years of their lives, creative output, and scientific achievements. The memory wipers walk behind them, locking away the intellectual property inside minds that no longer know what they created. Can you imagine looking at your own hands, knowing they built something revolutionary, but having your brain completely blocked from remembering what it was? You feel an overwhelming sense of loss and paranoia, but you have no memories to attach the feeling to. You are a stranger in your own mind, walking through a life curated by invisible hands. Finally, we reach the most clandestine and disturbing role of all, the Deep Archive Obsolescence Curator. Hidden beneath massive government archives and corporate data vaults are rooms containing physical and digital artifacts that have been legally ordered to never be seen again. These are not just classified documents, they are psychological anomalies, disturbing audio recordings, unreleased scientific trials that went horribly wrong, and historical records that threaten the established narrative of human civilization. The curator lives underground, surrounded by millions of files that must be systematically destroyed, altered, or preserved in total secrecy. They work alone in vast, freezing vaults, listening to recordings of human suffering, reviewing footage of catastrophic scientific failures, and deciding which pieces of horrific truth are too dangerous for the world to ever know. They are the final gatekeepers between human curiosity and utter psychological destruction. But who watches the curator? Who ensures that the person holding the keys to our darkest secrets doesn't finally snap under the crushing weight of what they know? Sometimes, late at night, deep within those concrete vaults, the curator hears footsteps echoing down empty hallways where no one else is supposed to be. What happens when the person guarding the nightmare finally opens the wrong door and lets the truth out into the world?